If you feel like you're doing everything right, but you're still really struggling financially, there may be a few hidden habits that are quietly draining your finances. So, in today's video, we're going to talk about 3 habits that may be keeping you broke and then some solutions on how to fix those. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. I'm Sarah Edens. I'm a financial consultant and educator, and I make weekly videos all about personal finance, money mindset, and how to achieve financial independence by building lasting wealth. So, if that all sounds interesting to you, then please consider subscribing and share this video with a friend who might be interested as well. So let's take a look at these money habits that can be perhaps keeping you broke and sabotaging your finances. The first one is spending to relieve stress and or unpleasant emotions. So you can call it what you will. Some people like to call this retail therapy. Perhaps a more recent terminology for this is doom spending. If you're having a bad week and then you look at the news and you just get the sense of, what's the point? Everything's so terrible right now anyway. What's the point of preparing for the future? And so doom spending is a new term that is kind of replaced retail therapy, I think. But they all point to the same thing, which is spending to try and help yourself feel better. I think we've probably all done this at one point or another. Nothing wrong with it. But if it's a habitual thing that you do, obviously it's going to really affect your overall finances. So, psychologist Dr. Christopher Fisher explains that these purchases, while providing a temporary dopamine rush, quickly lead to things like guilt, regret, and mounting debt. And then also, too, it can even lead to issues with your spouse if you have a whole bunch of purchases that you have to figure out how to hide from them because you're embarrassed about having done this, and then you're on the fence about perhaps having to make returns. And, it can just turn into a really stressful situation in and of itself, if you've bought a lot of things you can't afford and you were already stressed before. So we all know that this doesn't actually work in the long run to help us feel better. So some easy fixes here are, first of all, identify your emotional triggers that make you feel terrible and make you feel like heading for the mall or going on, your favorite online shopping platform and buying up everything that you can possibly get your hands on that looks good. Think about what is it that's triggering you. Is it stress? Is it reading the news? Is it anxiety? Is it boredom? Really look and see what are your triggers that then kind of tip you over into wanting to go on a shopping spree, and really start to be mindful of those. You can even keep a little note in your phone, or if you use Notion, something like that, maybe start to keep track of times when you start to get triggered and then you find yourself scrolling online and going shopping or going to the mall or going retail therapy route. If you can start to track it, then you'll be able to start to get a really good evidence-based kind of list of things that are your triggers in that situation, and then be able to just, next time you get in a situation where you're feeling triggered to go on a shopping spree, just be mindful and say, I'm triggered, I'm stressed, I'm anxious. The shopping is not going to fix this for me. So it's a really good habit to start making kind of a note of when you get triggered, what sets you off, just so you're starting to be mindful of that habit in the first place, because otherwise it can just sabotage you all day long and you're not even really aware you're doing it. Then once you've started to kind of keep a log of that, as you're starting to be more mindful, you can kind of take a pause and really practice mindfulness instead of spending, or instead of doing something to kind of like fix those feelings in the short term. Really start to be more mindful, and then also reach out for help. Get into therapy if that would help. Go spend some time in nature, talk to a supportive friend or family member. Just, do a hobby, do something that will actually make you feel better and won't be kind of having that unfortunate extra stress of, you went shopping and you temporarily felt better, but now you've got some more strain on your budget, and perhaps you're having a fight with your spouse on top of it over it or whatnot. So really, really key to kind of start to be mindful about that whole thing with the doom spending, and be aware of that if that's an issue for you. The second habit that may be keeping you broke is ignoring your money. Now, not budgeting or checking your bank balances, your credit card statements can really lead to a snowball effect of problems because you can end up bouncing checks, you can end up having expensive late fees, all the way out to having insurance policies canceled or utilities shut off because you forgot to pay a bill. And we've all forgotten to pay a bill from time to time, most likely, but it's just really important to realize that avoiding the issue of your money, avoiding that is not going to make it better. It's often easy to procrastinate about things we're anxious about or avoid things that we're anxious about. But in this case, kind of like with your health, avoiding dealing with your money and keeping your financial house in order to the best of your ability is really going to make the situation much worse. And you're not alone in this. In a 2020 Capital One Mind Over Money, researchers found that 77% of participants surveyed felt anxious about their situation financially, with 58% reporting that their finances controlled their lives, or they had that perception that they were kind of out of control of their finances. So you're certainly not alone in the situation. So here's a few ideas about how to fix this if you feel out of control of your money and you're ignoring it because it makes you feel anxious. Start with a 15 to 30 minute daily money habit. And I have a whole video about this that I will link to in the description as well. But even weekly, if trying to do this once a day is too much, at least weekly, maybe on a weekend when you're going to have some free time, where you take stock of your financial situation, pay bills, so forth. Just kind of be able to stay on top of things. It's much easier to do it a little bit at a time than to have one big marathon session every 6 months. Believe me, that's stressful versus keeping up with a little bit at a time is far less stressful. So you can watch my video on this for more as well. And then if you're looking to figure out, if you don't have a budget and you're trying to figure out where to get started, I have a whole budgeting playlist that I will link to in the description, as well as my Excel budgeting video that I go through step by step with the process I've used for years to track my money in Excel. There's also some really good budgeting apps if you don't want to have to do it all yourself the old-fashioned way. Things like Monarch is a really good budgeting app that I've heard great things about. I'll link to that as well. That's probably the top one that I've heard of lately as being a fantastic app if you just want something a little bit more app-based. So there's a lot of different ways that you can track your money these days, whether it's Excel, pen and paper, Notion, in an app, what have you. But the point is, find a budgeting system that works for you, because it could be like the perfect budgeting system in the world. But if it's not one that you like and it's not one that suits you and you don't use it, it's not the right one. So really focus on finding a budgeting solution that is going to keep you sane and help you feel organized and work with the way that your brain works and the way you like to organize things. And then the third habit that can keep you broke is thinking like a consumer, not an investor. I just did a video on this recently, so I will link to that as well if you want to watch that later. But consumers focus on short-term gratification, while investors focus on long-term value and cash flow. So that's really the key difference there is are you thinking short term or are you thinking long term? Because with finances, it's just absolutely critical to have a long-term perspective. We all struggle with this. It's hard to imagine ourselves, our future selves in the many decades to come and so forth. But just do your best and really focus on having a longer-term perspective. That mindset then of having a long-term perspective means the difference between living paycheck to paycheck and financial stability and ultimately financial independence and financial freedom, which I know so many of you here are really interested in that topic. I am as well. That's a key component of what I teach here on my channel. So it's really interesting. A 2025 Fidelity report revealed that the number of 401k millionaires, which is just people who have been consistently investing in their 401k plans with their employers over decades, this isn't overnight millionaires, but the number of 401k millionaires increased by 27% in 2024. These individuals achieved this milestone through consistent long-term investing rather than short-term market timing. And it's something that's really, really key. I hear a lot of my colleagues in the finance space say it's not about timing the markets, it's about time in the markets. And that's very much the case. These people who became millionaires through this consistent 401k investing also maintained a strong savings habit, with the average contribution rate reaching 14.1% of their annual income, which was close to Fidelity's recommended rate of 15% of what, Fidelity recommends that you invest about 15% of your post-tax annual income so that you can kind of build that safety net for yourself in retirement. So if you're struggling with kind of having that long-term vision for yourself and you're really struggling with, maybe you're stuck right now with paycheck to paycheck habits or just a lot of consumer habits and not thinking like an investor, one thing you might do is just really focus on making that mindset shift. And again, I'll link to my video about that. You can also just start small. If you've never invested before, just pick one investment vehicle that you want to use. So that could be an IRA, it could be a 401k, it could be something along those lines. Go for something that is tax advantaged like that. It means that there's penalties for withdrawing money from those, but at the same time, you also get to grow your wealth tax advantaged in the fund, and then you're not taxed on it when you put it in. You get a tax break on the money you contribute, unless it's something like a Roth IRA. But really start small with one retirement account and automate contributions to ensure that you keep contributing to that. So automation is just the best thing if you want to do a paycheck automation from your employer direct to your 401k. They've done numerous studies that show that that really helps people invest consistently, because that way you never even see the money. It goes directly from your employer to your 401k and it's just out of sight, out of mind. And then just really focus on staying the course. And this is a really interesting time to be trying to do this in the markets right now, because they are definitely very volatile. Just this whole year has been a roller coaster for investors, but do your best to stay the course. Work with a financial planner or an investment advisor who can help shape a good retirement plan and a good investment strategy for you, for where you are in your working life and what's best in terms of your risk strategy and your risk tolerance in terms of how risky of assets you feel comfortable investing in versus the lower risk ones. And just really, as well, just educate yourself about investing. There's just many, many different resources to learn from as well. But the data shows that disciplined, consistent investing really pays off very, very well. So I hope you found this video helpful about these 3 different money habits that may be keeping you broke and some practical strategies on how to fix them. And I appreciate so much all of your comments. I always enjoy reading all of them, even if I don't get around to replying to them. So thank you so much for those. And I will see you again soon in my next video.